whether or not we can afford to do that. For example, it's been estimated for great research that to build a carbon neutral building will cost us $3 million more than just bring it to, say, the silver level. So, you have to ask yourself, with the fact that we can't afford light bulbs, we would spend $3 million to build a carbon neutral. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. So circling back again, these are, we're looking at these 5 things, and those are 5 focal points, and they're not mutually exclusive, but we'll be asking you for how would we prioritize them as we move forward. If you look at some of the, and this is on your hand, no, this might not be on your hand, I can't remember. But if you look here, here are some potential energy options for the campus. Across this way are benefits. If we talk about tariff changes, for example, our interruptible contract, it's an excellent example of saving us money, but it doesn't do anything for fossil fuel conservation or energy security or any of this stuff. Energy conservation projects, on the other hand, whether they be thermal or electric, is a win-win right across the board. Biomass could be a win-win, depending on how you consider this in terms of CO2. Biomass cogeneration, what that means is a steam turbine which takes steam from a biomass boiler, generates power, and adds it to our system. Again, that could be a win-win. Biofuels, if we use those in campus vehicles or in our generating plant down there, might not save us money. Generally, those tend to run a little higher, but they save on fossil fuels. If we consider them a limited resource, they could improve our energy security because they might be more of a local source. CO2 possibly reduction, and another plus for sustainability. Wind turbines, long term, could be a possible cost reduction, even if we make the investment and look at a 20-year life cycle. And then it's a guessing game as to how far UPCO is going to go at their power rates. So possibly. Otherwise, win-win across the board. Solar, generally, it's hard to save money with solar, but you have wins here. Geothermal depends on what type of geothermal. Around here, we'd probably be talking about heat pumps, most likely, but that needs electrical input to operate. We're not near any fault zones where we can tap into a steam source down in the ground, like maybe in California or Rocky Mountains. So a lot of questions on that. Nuclear, the only reason to have that up there is not that we would build a 3-mile island, but Toshiba, for example, is talking about building a plug-and-play nuclear box that comes on a semi, and it's fueled up at the factory. You hook it up, and it starts generating power and maybe some heat. And then in 20 years, when it needs more fuel, they haul it away and do it at the factory. Now, that's maybe down the road we might see something like that. Maybe in 2015, or who knows when they would get FERC approval for something like that. Supposedly they were going to start putting them in apartment buildings in Japan in 2008, but it's hard to find any real news on it. So it seems like it's kind of sliding or holding in a holding pattern maybe. Let's just go over what's been going on campus here. In terms of energy conservation, a fairly robust program was started in 1980. We invested, hit the wrong button here, sorry. We invested $3 million, and initially we achieved a 40% reduction in our steam load and a 17% reduction in electrical. But then, here's what happened. Our 17% disappeared. Our 40% reduction went down to about 30 because from that point in time we started adding thousands of computers. There's more personal equipment on campus. There's a lot more research activity. And another thing is our campus changed from what used to be a 8 to 5 operation to more of a research environment where we're now 8 to midnight and beyond, plus weekends, which means HVAC runtime is up dramatically. And then we were pretty scotch back in the late 70s and early 80s. The federal mandate was, during Jimmy Carter's time, 65 degrees. Well, that's pretty chilly, so you know that's been creeping up. You know, it's 68 and more nowadays. So that's what's changed it. This is just a summary of our energy conservation expenditures, savings, you know, from that time period and to now. Our total expenditures were about $8 million. Our annual savings are in this order. If we had to pay for it all ourselves, our payback would be here. But we did get DOE grants. We did get State of Michigan funding. So our net investment is $2.6 million on an annual savings here. So our return is pretty good. If we just look at net energy conservation and take out the campus generators, because that's a cost reduction, not necessarily conservation, then the numbers break out in this fashion. Was there any question on that? I guess maybe I'm jumping ahead too fast here, but in the interest of time. And then there was, in terms of energy cost reduction, since I've been here for a while, I can remember some of these things. In the late 70s, we combined our metering points. That saved us 50 grand. In '86, we started buying natural gas from brokers instead of from the gas company. That's about a $200,000 a year. And in 2006, we revised our interruptible rate with SEMCO, and that's for transportation. So that saves us another $40,000. What's our future? Well, no doubt we're going to continue to purchase electricity, natural gas, and fuel oil. However, as we plan this blueprint, we see a lot of potential for a lot more energy conservation because it's such a win-win right across the board. If we go back to our benefit slide, that's a big one right there. Biomass, maybe if we can make it work out. Biofuels might have a part of it. Cogeneration is pretty strong. Wind turbines, possibility. These are question marks down at the bottom. In the slides that follow, keep in mind that the numbers we're showing you are initial rough estimates, some pulled from the air. They're not finite costs in terms of capital expenditures, energy savings, or carbon reduction. But if we look, these are what ifs. In other words, let me take the first example on electrical conservation. If we can identify $1 million worth of potential projects with a 10-year payback, in other words, the ROI, return on investment, is 10%, then naturally our savings is $100,000 by definition. In other words, we would try to find $1 million worth of these projects that average at this. Okay, then for every million that we invest in such projects, if we can identify them, then it saves this much megawatt hours, and our carbon reduction is about 1,200 equivalent tons per year. And if we apply the same logic to fuel conservation, you work through the numbers, it saves this much gas, and you notice here the reduction in CO2 equivalent is about half of what you get from electrical. So it's very,